One. Good evening, everybody. Captain S. Rock was on the pier over the weekend doing magic and illusions. Welcome to number 2 Facebook Live. My name's Nino Miami. And welcome everybody that's coming on board and watching the presentation tonight. This is, as I mentioned, my second Facebook Live, so I'm just kind of getting used to all the whole process here of putting this thing together. It's been quite of an exciting journey learning this technology because I'm from the era that my last year of college is when they discovered or invented the calculator. And it's just when I mastered the slide rule. And we have a lot of people joining on. It's really cool watching this thing grow. Good evening, everybody. Rachel Rose, I see you there. Chris, you're there. Jason, thank you very much. You just joined. We're going to have a good time tonight. You know, as I said, my name is Nino Miami. I'm the founder of what's called MAP Training. It's a very unique system of personal transformation education. And it gives you a way to be able to identify a lot of things that goes on in a life that might be very confusing. Now, if you're like most people, have had a deluge of disasters that have been going across the news, like that terrible event that happened last week when the 17 students and a whole bunch of them were injured and killed at this high school in Florida. You know, that's it as an example of what I'm talking about, the consciousness of the shadow. The shadow comes in a lot of different ways. And the collective shadow is everything that's around you, the world around you. You can see it everywhere. It has an influence in the media, the music you listen to, if you watch the news, where you work at, any type of advertising, marketing. The collective shadow is there, and it's there to influence you to act in a certain way. Political affiliations, and the list is huge. So what I'd like to do tonight is discuss about this thing called the collective shadow, and also our personal shadow and how does that affect. But before I do that, I'd like to share something with you. See, the shadow works with what we call illusions. It gets you to buy something that is not true. It's an illusion. Now, here's an example of an illusion. You can guys see my hands. They're all empty. There's nothing there, nothing in my hands. Both hands are completely empty. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to reach out and I'm going to grab a little fairy dust right here. And I'm going to sprinkle it over my palm of my hand here, stuff it down. And say the magic word abracadabra. And what happens is we bring up a red silk hanky. Came out of nowhere. Now, if we take it and go put it back, let me stuff it down here deep into my palm again. Push it down nice and deep. Wave my hand over my palm and say the magic word abracadabra. And what happens is it vanishes. Well, that's an example of an illusion. Magicians use it all the time, and they understand the concept of the shadow, and so they leverage it. But the difference between a magician and the average person who's watching the magic, the magician knows the shadow's name and the secret behind it. That's one of the most important things. If you can understand and identify what this is and give it a name, you have now the ability to have power over it and help it carry you where you want to go. Now, let me tell you a short little story. And it's based on what's called the Princess of the Glass Mountain. It's a very ancient story. And it's where this hunter who has been on this quest, and he finally comes to this place called the Lake of Reflection. And at the Lake of Reflection, he comes across a woman's slippers and a woman's nightdress, which is called a shift. And he picks it up, and it's so amazing to him. And when he picks this up, it fills all his body, impregnates with some amazing numinous energy. And he hears a voice speak out, and she says, "Please Don't take my shift and my shoes. I have to return to the mountain where I'm held captive by an evil witch. Well, the hunter says, well, where are you? She says, I can't see you. He says, I am here in spirit, but please do not take them. And then he said, is there anything that I can do? And she says, no, there's nothing you can do, because you'd have to go through the forest of giants, and it's a place where no mortal man has entered and survived. It's a tragic thing. And that's where, for the story for most people, stops. That's where your dreams stop. That's when we run up against something that's so omnipotent, over and bigger than we can ever imagine, that comes in, sits down on us, and puts the Satyrian pressure, where prevents us from moving forward in our life and in our dreams, the things that we would really like to have happen. I've dedicated my life to helping people be able to get through that. And the shadow is a very powerful, powerful figure. And if we don't understand it, and we don't create a relationship with it, because you can't kill it, because it's an immortal force. It's an invisible force. It changes faces all the time. It's never in the same place twice. It's always moving around. But when you have a consciousness of it, then you can be able to sniff out shamers and be able to name it. So the hunter says, is there anything I can do? And she says, no, you'd have to enter in the forest of giants where no mortal man has never survived. Well, this hunter is different. The word hunter is what we call a code word. A hunter is an individual that has had an initiation into what we call the deep feminine and the deep masculine, and has embodied this energy within his own soul and spirit, and it's made this individual very, very powerful. And he's embodied in himself some magical energies that are invisible, but is being drawn up from the land, and drawn up from the clouds, and drawn it up from the clouds and the sky and the stars. And this energy comes through this individual and empowers them. In our world that we live in, most people are never taught this. I was fortunate to go through what I call tribal initiation when I was 38 years old. And it was a very excruciating experience, but I would do it again, even at 65, because of the knowledge and wisdom that I get. And I want to share this with as many of you as possible, so that your lives can become as extraordinary as which mine have, and sharing this all with people around the world that have had their lives changed as well. So this hunter, he goes into the forest with a drum, and he goes beating on the drum. And as he's beating on the drum, he wakes up the giant. The giant comes out. He says, hey, what's all this racket? How dare you wake me up? And he reaches down to eat him, pick him up. And the hunter says, I don't think you want to eat me. Well, why not? Because, see, I told 100 of men in the village that if I don't come back tomorrow, to come back and find me, and more likely there's a giant here that is sleeping, I want you to come with hammers and wake him up. Pound him on the head. Well, the giant says, well, no problem. I'll eat you, and then I'll eat all them tomorrow. It'll be breakfast, lunch, and dinner. He said, well, we figured you'd say that. So we told them to tell 100 men, too, to come then the next day with hammers and pound on your head. And they'll tell 100, and they'll tell 100. Pretty soon, you'll get no sleep. Well, the giant says, well, wait a minute. That doesn't sound too good. How about if what do you want? He says, I want you to pick me up and carry you on your brim of your hat to the base of the glass mountain. I'm on a quest. And if you do that, we'll leave you alone. Well, the giant thinks for just a moment. He picks up, thinks about it. He picks up the hunter, puts him on his hat, and carries him through the forest of giants. As he's going, he comes through and they encounter another giant. And the giant says, what are you doing with that snack on your brim of your hat? And the giant says, oh, don't pester him. We need to sleep, and he will disrupt our sleep. The giants are not very smart. And they go through the forest, and he put him at the base of the glass mountain, and his journey continued. And I'll tell you more about this story next week. But most important to understand is that there's certain characteristics that shadow does have, and I'm going to go over them tonight with you so you can understand how this thing affects us. And if we understand these secrets, we can see them in everyday's life. When I tell you these 4 specific characteristics of the giant. Number 1, the giant is a sleeping complex. It sleeps. And when it wakes up, number 2, it's hungry and it wants to feed. So let's take, for example, a movie that just came out just a few months ago called the movie It by Stephen King. This clown, Pennywise, emerges into this town every 30 years. And he wreaks havoc. He kills the children. Now, why does he kill the children? He kills the children because the children are innocent and naive. But the problem is we have now a culture that has grown up, what Robert Bly called the sibling society, where we have a lot of people that may be adult bodies, but still inside have that wounded child that's governing their life. And they're scared to death of that shadow. So we have fear. And the fear keeps us from moving forward and making our dreams come true. But when we break through that fear, amazing things begin to happen. Your life becomes extraordinary because you now are embodying something that the giant is scared to death of. Now, the third characteristic of the giant is that it hoards things it can never use. There's a television show on right now that we've probably all seen. It's called Hoarders. You guys probably remember that one? Well, these people got stuff that's piled up all over the place. I remember this one woman I knew a few years ago. I went in her house. You couldn't even walk in the front door. There was newspapers and magazines piled up as high as the ceiling. Went all the way down the hallway on both sides. You could barely get through. Every room was filled with stuff. The place was a fire trap. That's an example of a hoarder. They hold on to things they don't really need, but they're so afraid of letting them go because they live in this consciousness of scarcity. If they let it go, they won't have anything. And the fourth characteristic is that it's arrogant and full of pride. It's got a blind side. Those of you who remember the movie The Hobbit, when Smaug was flying through the village and he told everybody, he said, "No, they can't hurt me. I'm invincible." But his arrogance and pride would not let him recognize that one scale that was missing from his armor. And that's where the archer hit him and killed Smaug. When we understand the shadow's weakness, what it's afraid of, then we can now use that as a power, because you can't really kill the shadow. It's an immortal force. It returns, as it says, in every 30 years in Pennywise, in that movie It. But if you also look in the Bible, in the New Testament, there's a passage in there where it says, Judas was paid with 30 pieces of silver. That represents 30 years of illusion that we go through in 30-year cycles. So that in the 30-year cycle, you see it starts when we're around 15, 16 years old. That's the first cycle. And then the second cycle is when you hit midlife. And the third cycle is when you hit to be your senior years. If you have done no work, you probably got some debilitating disease and you're probably grumpy as hell. I'm old, but I'm not grumpy. I have 2 grandchildren and 1 on the way, and I'm very excited about it. And 5 kids, and and it's really cool. I happen to see a friend of mine who's been a student and a good friend, and I've watched him grow up. And Morgan Gillio is joined us tonight. Morgan, hello to you. Good to see you. Good to hear from you. So I didn't see you yet, but good to hear from you that you're on and you join us. And I hope life is really, giving you many blessings, because you're an extraordinary young man. I've enjoyed working with you all those years and going up to Sundance. That was pretty cool. So those are the 4 characteristics of the shadow. And it wants to keep you fearful. Now the word fear, F-E-A-R, stands for false evidence appearing real. So when we're able to pull away the veil and see what's behind the curtain, like in The Wizard of Oz at the end when Toto pulls the curtain back and reveals an old man pulling levers there. And that's what's creating the illusions. And then all of a sudden the fear disappears. When we understand how it works, like that trick that I just did for you a little while ago. See, the interesting thing about the trick, it's a very simple trick, but when you first see it, it looks very complicated because you see nothing in my hands. But yeah, at the same time, what happens, and I say the magic word abracadabra, it appears again out of nowhere. So if you know the secret of it, you know its name, you can have power over it. So I want you guys to think about this. Take just a moment. You got a piece of paper and a pencil in front of you right now. Write down your biggest desire. What would it be that you would like to have happen in your life? What would that be? Take a moment, write that down. Write down also what is preventing you from making that happen. What has come up? See, the shadow wants to keep you a victim too. As long as it can keep you a victim and you can go like this, it's their fault, I can't do it anymore. That's what happened to me. Then no way in the world my world is going to make the desire that I wrote down on that piece of paper happen. But the day you go like this and you claim it is the day you've embodied an immense energy that's available to everybody in the world that empowers you to make your dreams come true. So whatever you happen to be afraid of, write it down. Now, this is what we're going to continue doing this every Tuesday night, 6:30. I'll have a specific topic on map training we'll be talking about. I'll expand on this a little bit more. If you guys type me a question that you'd like me to answer, I'd be more than happy to address that tonight. So if any questions that you would like to voice, please type away. And I'll be able to answer a few questions for you. So let's see. So what can you do about it? Well, one of the things that can be done is nothing. And that's what most people will do, is nothing. Now, nothing is not going to get you anything, so you have to do something. So I would encourage you, if you haven't already, in your area, find a mentor that can help you work with what you're doing and helping that desire that you have there move into its physical reality, because you need a Gandalf. You have to have somebody like that who's knowledgeable of those things in the world to help you become successful. I do mentoring as well. If you want to get in touch with me, go to my website, ninomiani.com. That's MAIANI. We're also doing a really cool workshop again in Boulder. That will be my 6th year coming to Boulder, doing this workshop on map training. And I'm really excited about it. It's on healing on the betrayed soul, using the map training techniques to be able to empower you to help your dreams come true. Well, this workshop is March 16th to the 18th. On March 15th, there'll be a free lecture that I'll be doing on Introduction to Map Training to give you kind of a little more feel about what you can expect if you came to the 3-day event. I guarantee everybody who comes, you'll be blown away. It's really a lot of fun. You'll learn a lot, and it puts you on the road of making your dreams come true. Most important, every week I'll be on here every Tuesday night sharing a little bit about how this works, how you can benefit. If you got questions, please, type me a question or go on the Facebook Messenger. Type me something if you wish to be able to get more information if you want. But most important, get your questions answered and then go out and make your life extraordinary, because you can. And the word extraordinary is 2 words. It means extraordinary. And the people that go out and make their lives extraordinary are the ones that are stepping into the mystery. Stepping into the mystery, because that's where the rewards are. But the shadow wants to keep you in what we call the village, in the kingdom that's got problems. And it wants to keep everybody bickering at one another and blaming each other for why things don't work. But the ones that go out into the world, into the mystery, and they come back, they always come back with something greater than what they had before. Most important here, don't wait. Don't procrastinate on that dream that you have that you want to change your life for. But get the help and go out and do it. I always tell my students, look, it's more fun to go out and do it and fail miserably than do nothing. I'd rather have a great big failure than do nothing. Because when it's all said and done, I want to be able to say this: I'm glad I did, instead I wish I had. It's a lot more fun. And I've had a lot of failures in my life, but I'm glad I had those encounters. It gave me insights into the world that I never would have had otherwise. So it's been great spending about a half an hour with you on the Facebook program here. This is all new to me because I'm still in the calculator stage of life, and my kids have always been Dad, you need to get on Facebook and tell people about this. So I'm giving it a shot right now, and if you liked it, please be sure and say you liked it. Go on onto the map training website, the map training Facebook page. You can see some videos of other ones that I've done before. If you got some questions, you make please write them down, make some comments, make some noise, go tell all your friends. Come back next week. I'll have another magic trick for you, and we will talk more about how to make your dreams become reality for you. My name's Nino Miami. I want to thank everybody for coming on and taking a half hour of your life today to be able to hear a little bit what I had to say. I hope you've enjoyed it, and we'll talk to you again next week. And I'll be sending out some videos during the week of some goofy things that are going on, and also things to support the next Tuesday night's conference. So please invite friends on, let them know what's going on, and we will see you guys next Tuesday. Good night.